Chief Hydromet Officer estimates the country will continue to see higher than normal levels of rainfall. A new airline is set to fly the skies of Guyana next month. Motorcyclist in life-threatening condition after crashing into a minibus on Kwakwani Trail. In the region, Haiti gangs increasingly target schools, students, UNICEF. And internationally, about 22 million Afghans face acute hunger, agency warns. Greetings and welcome to another edition of Channel 2 Headline News Update. I am Berbice. Thank you for joining us. Over the weekend, the country experienced a high level of rainfall, which saw some areas in Georgetown flooded. This unusually heavy rainfall will continue over the next few weeks. Today, the Chief Hydromet Officer, Dr. Gavin Cummins, confirmed that the Hydromet data is estimating the country will continue to see higher than normal levels of rainfall, similar to what Guyana experienced last November. The Hydrometeorological Office warned of possible flooding as the country enters into the secondary or short rainy season, which typically lasts from mid-November to January. Dr. Cummins said, given that the Hydromet Office is forecasting above normal rainfall, there is a strong likelihood of flooding. From all indications, Guyana can expect a repeat of the occurrence of November 2020. Guyana was hit by intense rainfall and thunder showers in November of 2020, as well as above normal high tides impacted sea and river defenses. Flooding damaged over 1,500 homes across regions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10. The Civil Defense Commission is expected to meet with the regional officials this week to discuss plans to mitigate the impact of flooding. In 2020, the CDC distributed relief supplies to over 1,600 families. On Saturday, Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, delivered NIS pension booklets to residents of Fort Wellington, West Coast, Berbice. The distribution exercise was held at the NIS Fort Wellington office. This event was quite significant since the Finance Minister, with the support of the National Insurance Scheme's General Manager, Holly Graves, and other technical staffers, handed over booklets to citizens who have been waiting for years to receive their contributions. In his remarks, Dr. Singh recalled that in August, he and a team from NIS held an outreach at Fort Wellington to listen to the challenges citizens face in receiving their benefits. Those concerned were investigating, and about 80% of those issues have been resolved.
There is this perception that the NIS is not as responsive to its contributors and its pensioners. And so, as the minister responsible for this sector, I initiated, in keeping with His Excellency the President's instructions that all of these institutions be modernized in the way they interact with citizens, I initiated a series of outreaches. And we have now had them in regions 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. The response to these outreaches has been phenomenal. We have had, on average, I would say, over 100 persons coming to each outreach, in some cases more than 200 persons coming to each outreach. And what we have found is that a number of the issues that are raised are issues that can be resolved on the spot, and many of them were resolved on the spot.
Minister Singh recognized the challenges citizens face over contributing years of their lives to the improvement of their country, only to be told that they would not be able to collect their pensions.
I've said clearly to the NIS that this situation where you have people who have been waiting for a long time, going back and forth, there are people who have been waiting to get survivor's benefit for years, cannot get their survivor's benefit. They are a deceased spouse, they are a widow, cannot get their survivor's benefit. There are people who have been waiting for their invalidity benefit for years and cannot get it. There are pensioners, there are retirees who, for no fault of theirs, are unable to access their pensions, and this is not acceptable. And while I would be eager to commend the NIS under the leadership of the current board, and in particular under the leadership of General Manager Ms. Greaves, I would be eager to commend the board and the management for resolving these issues. I would in the same breath say that we need to get to a point where these issues do not arise.
The minister said employees should obtain statements of their contributions regularly and documents should be verified to ensure there are no missing contributions. The minister went on to call on employers to ensure that they pay their employees' contributions to NIS on time.
It is a legal obligation to be deducting and to be paying over in a timely manner to the NIS the contributions for your employees. It's a legal obligation. It's not an option, it's not a discretion. It's a legal obligation. Please ensure that you comply with the law and pay over your deductions, your NIS deductions for your employees in a timely manner.
After colliding with the rear of a minibus near Kwakwani Trail up Berbice River on Thursday, a motorcyclist is in critical condition suffering from a fractured skull. Enquiries disclosed that around 4:30 p.m. minibus BXX 4445, driven by 27-year-old Jason Swarvin of Landernville, Arima, Berbice River, was proceeding north on the Kwakwani Trail. Before approaching Bamboo Road, he put on his indicator to turn right. While negotiating the right turn, the driver felt an impact at the rear of his minibus. He stopped and exited his vehicle. Upon checking, he saw extensive damage to the rear of his vehicle. A few feet away, a motorcycle was on the road with extensive damage to the front. The driver of the motorcycle, Glendon Light of Horuru Mission, Berbice River, was lying on the road, badly injured. The minibus driver picked up the motorcyclist in an unconscious state and took him along with an injured passenger from the minibus to the Kwakwani Hospital complex. They were both examined by a doctor on duty who treated and later transferred them to the Linden Hospital complex. The passenger was admitted in a stable condition, while the motorcyclist was further transferred to the Georgetown Public Hospital in an unconscious state, suffering from a fractured skull. Investigations are ongoing. Stick around after the break. A new airline is set to fly the skies of Guyana next month, and a civil society group claims the government is not playing by all the rules.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brick Dam and White Castle Fish Shop. Be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
For decades, milk has remained the same. Until now. Introducing the Great Dairy Full Cream Milk from Alabama Trading. Enriched with vitamins A to D and calcium to promote healthy teeth, strong bones, and vitality. Great Dairy Milk is delicious and fortified to encourage healthy cell growth within the body. No wonder it's the #1 brand of milk produced in Ireland. Now available nationwide in 400-gram packages at leading supermarkets and wholesale vendors. Distributed by Alabama Trading.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
At John Lewis Styles, we carry only first quality men's and women's clothing, footwear, and accessories. As authorized dealers, our items come directly from the manufacturing brands and are available in all sizes and colors. What we sell was never on display in another store. It's time you know the truth about what you buy. Come visit us on Waterloo Street. John Lewis Styles. Simply different.
Welcome back. The InterCaribbean Airways, a new passenger airline, has entered the local airspace and will begin offering 12 round-trip flights between Guyana and Barbados on December 17th. InterCaribbean Airways is a regional airline that operates flights to 27 Caribbean countries. Minister of Public Works Bishop Juan Edgehill launched the airlines last Friday, explaining that as relations between Guyana and Barbados strengthened, the direct route was negotiated in great details with the airline. Importantly, Edgehill stated that Guyanese can fly to Barbados at 3 separate times on specified days. Meanwhile, Liet, a regional carrier, is also rumored to be considering a comeback to Guyana. However, the government is working to ensure that all passengers fly into Guyana receive great service. Liet stopped operating in Guyana last year when the COVID-19 pandemic forced airports closure to prevent the virus's spread. The regional airline has sought to return to Guyana, according to Public Works Minister Juan Edgehill. However, Edgehill on the other hand stated that the airline would not acquire the essential aviation approval until the government is satisfied with the company's commitment. When asked about the approval requirements, the Public Works Minister stated, quote unquote, "It has to do with the assurance that we can have." The civil society organization, Article 13, expressed concerns about the government of Guyana's failure to provide a comprehensive list of constitutional and statutory entities and offices necessary for the country's proper function within the Constitution. According to a press release signed by 3 of the group's members, Ramon Gaskin, Jonathan Yearwood, and Yug Mahadio, the group claims they can no longer accept President Ali's inability to establish the Public Procurement Commission and the Public Procurement Commission Tribunal, even as the government spends or announces the expenditure of billions of dollars in public funds. The Public Procurement Commission is a body established under Article 212W1 of Guyana's Constitution, with the objective of which is to supervise public procurement and procedures to ensure that the procurement of products, services, and the execution of works are performed in a fair, equitable, transparent, competitive, and cost-effective manner under the law and such policy guidelines as may be set by the National Assembly. Article 13 alleges that the administration violated the Constitution and the PPC Act and will take the necessary action, legal and otherwise, to restore constitutionality to the rule of law. Nevertheless, the civil society organization welcomed Attorney General Anil Nandla's announcement that the President would address the subject of the constitutional commissions upon his return from the Global Climate Change Summit. Don't go away after the break. Haiti gang increasingly targets school students, and Nicaragua's Ortega set to win vote that US calls pantomime. But before that, here's the bridge retraction schedule.
Smart Minds Educational Institute, offering preschool, nursery, and primary levels. Finally, a school that is every parent's dream. Located at 69 Crow Street, offering academic excellence, trained qualified teachers, small class sizes, personalized care, and one-to-one attention for your little ones. At Smart Minds, register for full-time or evening classes, daily practice pass exam papers for proficiency at the grade 2, 4, and 6 assessment, and CXE exam preparedness. Or join our Beccaphonics reading and writing program. So if your child is for preschool, nursery, or primary level, come to Smart Mind, located at 69 Street, or call 231-4885 or 600-9229 to enroll now.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road, Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Survival Shopping Complex brings to you its delivery service, Shop through WhatsApp. This process is simple. All you need to do is call or message your grocery list to 613-9683 and we will select your items for you and have them delivered directly to you, even out of town. This is convenient because we can stay on the phone with you as we select your favorite brands. We're happy to do your shopping for you. Contact us on WhatsApp today and shop price smart at Survival Shopping Complex.
Kingdom-based taxi service, transportation for every occasion. Short drop, airport, weddings, funerals, and much more. We're located at Lot H. Durbin and Vicingen Road, next to Green City Bar. For honest, efficient, and reliable service, call Kingdom-based taxi service at 648-5959 or 227-7937. You can count on us.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at news in the region and around the world. In the Caribbean, gangs in Haiti are increasingly targeting schools and students. The United Nations Children Agency, UNICEF, says the gangs are also forcing teachers to pay so-called protection money or risk being abducted. Al Jazeera's John Hendrins reports.
In Haiti's capital, learning is a dangerous business. The education of the youth of Port-au-Prince occurs behind iron gates, beneath spiral blades of barbed wire, in an atmosphere of pervasive fear.
I'm afraid that the gangs might come and kidnap me. I don't feel good, but I do it because I love school.
Principal Vildres Olibert runs this school on a shortage of funds and students. A fuel crisis leaves many out of work and unable to afford education or even the commute.
Everyone worries about kidnapping, but we keep working. We operate on faith.
For many of Haiti's youngest and most vulnerable, getting there is the most dangerous part of the day.
I sometimes hear gunshots on my way to school. Although I'm on foot, I don't have trouble going because I live close.
Haiti's children have become a black market commodity. In recent weeks, the country's powerful gangs have increasingly used a vacuum of political and police power in the capital to rob teachers and snatch their students for ransom.
A week ago, this school was open. Then some gangsters spotted a parent at the bank, followed him here, killed the parent, and injured several others. Now, like many schools in Haiti, this one is closed.
Parents arrived to find uniformed children on stretchers, leaving teachers across the capital afraid to come to work, but often showing up anyway.
I hope there'll be a change because the way we're teaching kids right now in this atmosphere is not favourable. My hope is that the situation we have right now will change so we can function.
Despite the dangers, each day thousands of children arrive in class after braving the capital's streets. But for many, the price of education in Haiti has simply become too high. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Port-au-Prince.
In Central America, the White House has called Nicaragua's election a pantomime. The United States says it will use all diplomatic and economic tools in its disposal to hold Daniel Ortega's government accountable. He is expected to win another presidential term after disqualifying most of the opposition, Al Jazeera's Nusiel Newman reports.
Nicaraguan soldiers, police, and Sandinista party supporters came out bright and early to vote. But in most of the country, the streets and the usually bustling polling stations were empty. This was in response to a call to boycott an election in which all the competitive opposition candidates were imprisoned or disqualified from running. Foreign journalists were barred from entering the country to cover the voting. President Daniel Ortega and his wife, Rosario Murillo, the vice president, nevertheless hailed the election as fair, free, and democratic. Ortega then described opponents and their alleged foreign backers as terrorists.
Son demonios.
They are demons, demons who do not want peace, who do not want tranquility for our country. They opt for violence, for war, for slander, for campaigns. For what? So that Nicaragua is once again plunged into violent confrontations.
Aula Lilia Lopez is one of the many who did not vote, still in mourning for her 21-year-old son, Gaitan, whom she says was murdered by Ortega's security forces during an anti-government protest.
There's been no justice because you know how we are with the Ortega-Murillo regime. For them, these victims don't exist. There have been no murders or political prisoners.
While public protests have been outlawed in Nicaragua, in neighboring Costa Rica, thousands of Nicaraguan refugees marched to denounce what they insisted was a farce.
What Daniel Ortega has organized is a political circus. That's why we are dressed as clowns, to mock his circus. We continue crying out for justice for all those he has killed since taking power.
At least another 8 government critics were reportedly arrested in Nicaragua before the polls opened.
Many of the exiles say they were forced to flee their country here into Costa Rica as exiles so that they wouldn't end up like these people, who are among the more than 300 Nicaraguans who were killed by police or paramilitary groups during the 2018 uprising. Now, many Nicaraguans are asking the international community to step up to the plate.
The U.S. government is expected to announce stronger sanctions against the Ortega government shortly, while the EU says it's considering what action to take to put further pressure on the government. As for the election results, with all the competitive opposition candidates behind bars, the poll was never about who would get the most votes, but rather about Mr. and Mrs. Ortega's permanence in power. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, San Jose, Costa Rica.
And internationally, hunger in Afghanistan is at record levels. More than half the population, about 22 million people, do not know where their next meal is coming from. Aid agencies are warning that without immediate medical intervention, millions of children may starve to death. Al Jazeera's Charlotte Ellis reports.
Koti Sangi is one of the busiest food markets in western Kabul. The produce comes fresh from farms outside the city. Prices are cheap. For 3 years, Riazullah has been here with his wheelbarrow. He's a Karachiwan, men who for a small fee transport shoppers' groceries. Yet for the last few months, his wheelbarrow has been mostly empty. He says shoppers can't afford his services. There is no business, he tells this man. We just roam around. He approaches women, hopeful they may need help. Auntie, do you need a wheelbarrow? He asks, but they walk away or ignore him. He is 5 hours into his workday and has earned only 20 cents. He used to earn about $3 a day, enough to pay his rent and feed his family. Frustrated, he heads home. He spends his day surrounded by food, but ever more frequently returns to his family empty-handed. Afghanistan's economy is collapsing. Under the last government, 75% of public expenditure came from foreign grants. US and UN sanctions meant that evaporated upon the Taliban's takeover. Taliban officials say they need sanctions lifted and aid agencies to return to tackle the problem. With little money to go around, banks limit withdrawals, employers can't pay their staff, and Riazullah and his family are paying the price. Today they had green tea for breakfast. Lunch is dal and bread. They will ration the leftovers for dinner.
I used to bring a lot of food to the house before the Taliban, but now there is no work, and it is pushing me into even more of a crisis. I'm due to pay $22 for rent, but I still owe for last month, and the children's health is getting weaker day by day.
They are not alone. 95% of people in Afghanistan are not consuming enough food, and more than half, about 22 million people, are malnourished, some so severely they may not make it through the winter. This is what Riazullah is trying to avoid. Al Jazeera has visited multiple hospitals in recent months, the wards swelling with more children being treated for malnutrition. Aid agencies say it's the worst food crisis in Afghanistan since records began. They say children are already starving to death.
We are looking at 5 million children who are one step away from starving to death. So that's serious. 5 million children are going hungry. They do not have food. They are surviving on bread, and the diet that really they are getting is not enough to sustain them.
Riazullah doesn't know what to do. He says the pressure is immense. The days are getting shorter, and he wonders if he and his wheelbarrow will bring home just enough for his young family to last the winter. Charlotte Bellis, Al Jazeera, Kabul.
And that is it for today's regional and international news. Here now is your 3-day weather forecast. And that is all for this edition of Channel 2 Headline News Update. Tune in on Thursday at 7 p.m. for another episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.